Welcome to OutTakes with Lori Baker. One of the most prolific character actors in Hollywood, Jasper Cole has over 100 television and film credits to his name, more often than not being cast as the villain. Most recently, he guest starred on ABC's The Rookie as Crackhead Fred, and along with his acting, Jasper hosts his own successful podcast, One-on-One with Jasper Cole. So Jasper joins us at OutTakes to discuss his career in acting, radio, and more. Exciting news for you this week, where on April 9th, you were on ABC's The Rookie as Crackhead Fred. What was the experience like being on The Rookie?
It was great. First of all, I love the name of the character, Crackhead Fred. But for me, it was exciting because, you know, in my career, I generally play really bad, nasty people. I'm either killing people or getting killed or something in there. And so, you know, Fred was actually kind of sweet and vulnerable. He's been clean for 30 days, and he's sort of the neighborhood, was a druggie in the neighborhood. I think he's sort of becoming an informant for the cops now. So I'm fingers crossed that, you know, Fred and his wife Wilma, who they talk about in the show, which is hilarious, from the Flintstones, that he will be making a return appearance, I pray, next season.
Oh, great. You know, when you play a role, you know, like a junkie, a drug user, do you go out of your way as an actor to research that sort of a role? Or?
Well, the irony is so funny because in my real life, people who know me, like, I don't drink, I've really never done drugs. I'm sort of no judgment, you know, against people who do, but it's just a little ironic that I don't have that in my real life. But I've certainly had lots of addiction around me and in my family and friends and all that stuff. So I'm well aware of it and the effects of it. But I don't know. I think a lot of it is my voice. I bring a certain vulnerability to these characters, and that's something, you know, you just can't. I always tell actors, well, I had to learn that there's just certain things you just can't change. Like, you just happen to bring something on camera. It's either a certain quality. And so a lot of times, even with my bad guys, they're kind of sympathetic, and people pull for them for some reason. But I'm glad. I mean, you know, I'm glad that happens. But no, I think a lot of it is just, you know, it's all in the script and the look, and I'm not very method when it comes to acting. I'm one of the actors who just say it's really about being in the moment and listening and reacting. But everybody has their own process. No judgment here. Whatever works for you.
Yeah. Well, you have played a lot of villain roles. Has there ever been one of the roles you played as the villain that was just, you know, so bad that you had a hard time maybe playing the part?
Well, let's see. I did a horror film called Hansel and Gretel, where I was one half of a set of twins, and Dee Wallace was the mom, and that character was just, it was so much killing and stabbing, and it's funny because I do these parts, but they're not necessarily things that I watch. So, but that had a lot of blood. And just a nasty character. He was just really, I really couldn't. I mean, the only redeeming quality was I decided he was clearly a little affected mentally, obviously, and then the mother had been so abusive all through their lives that, you know, I kind of blamed it on her. But it was just, that was a hard one to shake at the end of the day, every day, because we were just killing constantly people, and, you know, the gore of it all. But in general, it's, you know, it's make believe, and you have to keep a lot of laughter going on the set and keep it light. It's just all an illusion, as you know. But as I always say, I mean, you know, actors, we really live between action and cut. Those are the great moments. You just can't really explain what that's like, but there's a real adrenaline rush from when you're actually working. And then I always say they actually pay us for all the downtime, you know, the traveling to and from and the sitting around and waiting and all that part of it. but the actual acting part is what's so riveting.
Sure. Well, you had over 100 TV and film credits as a character actor. What is the secret to your longevity in this career?
Well, thank you. Well, I know, right? That really means I'm old. I always say, well, no, I was a child actor. Well, it's interesting. When I moved here in 1987, I was sort of, I was not Hollywood leading guy, but I also wasn't a character. I looked a lot younger at the time, so I was lucky to work. I played like the best friend, the college kid, or whatever. But really, it wasn't until I turned 40, and I kind of made a conscious decision at that point. I was just thinking, I really have to create something that will set me apart or get me on a list, so I really grew out my hair and the beard. I actually got cast on a Michael Eisner series called Prom Queen, playing like an abusive stepfather, and that was one of my first kind of mean character parts. And after I did that, I sort of decided, I think I really need to try to get in my own niche here or get into a certain category. So in looking back, I sort of changed my look and kind of reintroduced myself to the casters and the business. And I don't know, it was the greatest thing that ever happened because, in TV and film, you kind of want to get typecast because typecasting gets you on a list and people know you for those roles. And so it was a real blessing in hindsight in the last 15 years. I just turned 55. And, and the great thing about God, it is sort of sad to say this, and it's just a fact in our business that character actors and men in particular tend to work more as they get older, as we get uglier and older, but more grizzled, and so I that's kind of been what's happened is thankfully I've been able to work a lot more year after year since then. So
yeah, I saw you start. You're from Athens, Georgia. How did you decide you wanted to get into show business and become an actor?
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Because I grew up the youngest of four boys, and they were athletes, so I was athletic, and I grew up in a college town. I had always I was like a closeted thespian. I wanted to act. It wasn't sort of like cool. It wasn't considered cool in my school and all that stuff looking back. But I was secretly very envious of a drama department but I was always really into watching television, movies too, but I was really into television and pop culture and the celebrity of Hollywood and TV and all that sort of stuff, and especially sitcoms. And I really felt comedy was going to be my thing, But I didn't pursue anything until I graduated from high school, and then I went to college for 2 years. And I was sort of fighting that, wanting to be an actor, and finally I gave into it, and I moved to Atlanta and enrolled at the Alliance Theater, and they had a 2-year theater program and all acting program, and I just immersed myself in it. And that's where I met Becky Kennedy, who was a fellow Georgian, and we workshopped these plays. We created a show called Willow Springs Now, and it was sort of a spoof on Fernwood Tonight, or it was set in a cable access station and in a low rent TV station, and we played these two hosts, and we put it up in Atlanta, and it got produced. And then there was a producer from LA who saw the show. His name was Ivan Spiegel, God rest his soul, and he basically said to us, if you ever come to LA, I'd love to produce your show. Well, if you tell a 23-year-old, if you come to LA, I'll produce your show. We basically packed up the cars and drove to LA like a month later with our little show. And he was at the Burbage Theater in West LA, and we kind of knocked on the door. It's just such a classic, hilariously sort of embarrassing story now, but it all worked out. But he was probably looking at us like, you really came? And so he didn't know what to do with us, but there was a long-running play called Bleacher Bombs that was playing in L.A. at the Center City Playhouse. So what he did was he let us go on as a late-night comedy after Bleacher Bombs. So if you bought a ticket for Bleacher Bombs, I think you could pay $10 more and see our show. And it just kind of took off, and we had celebrities started coming, and like George Carlin came and became sort of a fan of the show, and it was just a really amazing time. And the show ran for 2 years, and then I got a manager and an agent, and and just kind of hung in there and stayed with it, and that's. But because we wrote it and we produced it, it was a really great kind of lesson for me coming into the business of wanting to always sort of also do my own material. So, I did keep writing after that, and I wrote another play that was published, and I have produced films, and I haven't done as much writing in the last 15 years because, like we talked about, thankfully I'm acting all the time, which is my first love, but I still produce as well now, and it's just kind of that kind of set everything in motion, and that was 32 years ago. God, can't believe it.
All the roles that you've had, is there like a certain character you've played on a show that you're the most proud of?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because again, my dream job is to like be part of, like The Rookie, be part of a police procedural ensemble where I'm just sort of the sidekick, and plus now that I've gotten so old or older, let me say, you kind of don't want to work every day for 14 hours, but I would love to do that. So I was on a show called The Forgotten with Christian Slater, where I was playing a character that kind of ran a rundown motel. That was a fun one. Oh, also on the comedy side, I love doing Brooklyn Nine-Nine more recently, playing the Oolong Slayer. Because again, I love comedy, but even on comedies I get cast as sort of the weird, creepy guy. So I'm not really ever the funny guy. I might sort of be the setup of the joke. But, yeah, I think it's so hard. I've had so many, but I think The Forgotten was a great one. But just like I said, anytime I'm on one of these 1 hour shows, it would be so nice to just have that consistency of a place to go back regularly. Because, as a guest star and a reoccurring, you just kind of like, you pop in, and you're constant. It's always like the first day of school. But you only go for 1 day, 1 or 2 days. It's always that weird thing where you come into an already established environment and you're just kind of that new kid there for the day. So it would be great to be. I'm putting it out to the universe. It's time for me to be a series regular on one of these ensembles. That would be fantastic.
Well, along with your acting, you also have a podcast, One-on-One, the show One-on-One. Mm-hmm. What made you decide to start your own podcast?
Well, it's interesting. I did a movie called MacGruber, a big SNL comedy back in 2010. And when I went on the press tour for that movie, which was really like my first big principal role in a studio film, so I went on the press tour and I went on a show On Air with Tony Sweet here in Los Angeles, and my basic personality is is funnier and lighter, and I'm a kind of caustic sense of humor. And like I said, going back to the comedy, I'm nothing really like the characters I play. And so Tony said to me, you really are good. I'm going to start my own station, and you should start a show. And I was like, well, what would it be about? And we came up with, my first show was called On the Set with Jasper Cole. And it was really a show that I created where I wanted to highlight people in the industry that don't always, and besides actors, I wanted to bring on, gaffers and all these different positions that people don't really know about. And we did that, and it segued into going back to more actors. It was all entertainment related. And we did that till 2015. I did that for 5 years, and then I wanted to do a show that was a lot more just one-on-one, where I could sit down and talk to people. But I started doing the podcast to really show this other side of my personality, the more real Jasper that was lighter and funnier and, you know, up on politics and pop culture and stuff like that, just to sort of balance out the industry's view of me always playing these really serious, severe characters. And I fell in love with doing it. Luckily, I've gained an audience, and now I'm on my 7th year, and we're just doing gangbusters, and I love it. I mean, you do it. You know how much fun it is. I love it. Like, I was a psychology major for my big 2 years in college, but that really, I would have become a therapist. That would have been my job had I not been acting, which is ironic because you kind of need a good therapist to be an actor. But no, I enjoy really talking to people and interviewing them, and then, you know, I love being funny on the air as well. But yeah, so this show I've been able to really cover it all and do more serious topics as well. So really proud of it. We've been doing it for 3 years now, this new show.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's terrific. What do you think is the biggest challenge as being a podcaster?
I think sometimes it's just getting the listeners. You know, I mean, it's the on the business side of it, getting the advertisers and the listener, and also I think a lot of times for me the challenge has been being available. I mean, making sure my schedule allows me to be available to do it, because it's so. I mean, it's you know, acting, these jobs come up, the audition process. Although now, luckily, so much is self-taped audition, so I don't have to always go into the room, and so yeah, and just because you know how it is, you set the show and then you don't want to have to cancel, obviously, at the last minute. But I don't find it I mean, it's a great challenge. I just truly love doing it. I love being in the room. I do it in a very small, intimate studio now, and I just really love being able to, you know, sometimes it's challenging, as you know, if you happen to get a guest that, I mean, it's a little ironic when your show's called One-on-One and they don't want to talk.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah.
So
I've had that.
I probably talk too much when I'm interviewed, like today, but you know, it's like pulling teeth, right? So you're trying to
sometimes.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen that often because, let's be honest, don't most people love to talk about themselves?
Most of the time they do, yeah. It's always kind of weird when you're interviewing someone who, you know, doesn't really have much to say. You're like, okay.
Right, it's those one-word answers, right?
Yeah,
you ask the question,
exactly.
and it's like, yes. No, and I'm like, okay, we have 45 minutes to go. All right, so
right.
That would be that's the challenge, is handling the guests who suddenly don't want to talk, I guess.
So what advice would you give for, you know, actors who want to get, you know, or for people who want to become actors, want to be in show business? What would be your main advice you would give someone who's interested in that? Yeah,
you know, it's interesting because I do get asked. I've been blessed at times to be part of like these panels or, you know, whatever, workshops. And one of the very first ones I did, I kind of just started out and I said, you know, to everybody in the room, I said, if there's anything else you could do and be fulfilled and generally happy, you really should just get up and leave now and go do it. I said, because acting can be a very challenging and difficult road. And of course, you know, the people putting it on were freaked out. They're like, Jasper, you can't tell people to leave because we need them to stay. But, you know, what I meant was, you know, it comes down to quality of life also. So you just have to really love it to the point where you want to do it above all else. And, you know, on the flip side, it's not brain surgery. You know, it's a job, and we're not curing cancer or whatever, but there's not a lot of security, and you have to be willing to sacrifice a lot. Now, the good thing is I say to young actors now, oh, my God, you're so blessed. You you have the freedom now to create your own content. You've got YouTube and Snapchat, and everybody is creating their own content, and you don't have to just wait to be called into a room to get an audition. So on the flip side, I think it's a great time to come into the business and there are all these platforms, all the streaming companies. There's so much more opportunity for actors. And unfortunately, it's gotten very closed in the sense that it's gotten much harder for us to get parts. All the big movie stars now do television. And then, of course, that means the TV stars have kind of been bumped down to guest star. It's kind of a piecemeal thing right now with just take what you can get. But I think the beauty of being young, of course, in general, is you don't know the rules, and so you come in and bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and you just go for it. The longer you're in it, you get you get not jaded, but you just get a little more hardened to it. But yeah, I just think it has to be something that you really can't do anything else and be happy with, because it's not, it's a lot of actors don't make a living doing it, and they're not fortunate enough to get to act a lot. So, in general, though, I always say to people, just act wherever you are. You don't have to come to Hollywood. Just do everything you can where you are. I started in theater, so for me it's theater, but, do as many films, student films. Like I said, make your own stuff, and then, just know that there's no right way to do it. Everybody's path is different in this business.
Yeah. Are there any up-and-coming projects for you that you can tell us about?
Well, yeah. So I have 2 films that are coming out. I have 2 indie films. One's called Model Home, and I play Walker, this sort of desert rat character that sort of comes in, and it's a movie about home staging. So it's taking the whole idea of selling a home to the next level. Instead of actually just staging it, they hire a mother and her kid to live in this house, not really vetting her properly, not really quite understanding her mental condition. And it turns into this sort of thriller nightmare of she goes into sort of a bipolar state while she's living there. And Walker shows up and sort of all chaos takes place. But that's with Kathy Baker and Monique Gabriella Kernan. It's really a good film. And then the other one is Captured, which is about a bunch of young rock and roll singers. Again, I got to work with like 6 millennials that are amazing. And I play Shelley, who's the groundskeeper at the mansion where one of the leads grew up, and they come back to shoot a video there. And I've still been there for 30 years, and a lot of the past comes back, and there's a lot of stuff that takes place in terms of murder mystery and stuff like that. So those are both coming out this summer and going on video demand and all the platforms. I'm producing a docuseries right now with Bill Alverson, who is one of the creators of Insatiable on Netflix, and also Tony Tripoli, who was the executive producer on Fashion Police. And we're doing a show. I can't say a lot about it, but we're doing a show. Basically, it's like a red carpet show like you've never seen before, that's not about the shallowness of red carpets and paparazzi. It kind of goes to a deeper level. And I'm also a producer on a digital series called Bronx SIU that actually just got 3 Daytime Emmy nominations. That's going to be coming up next month. So yeah, so I'm, I try to keep my hand in all kinds of pots.
Oh yeah, it sounds like you're a busy guy. You've been a busy guy for a while.
Yes, I'm very grateful, blessed, and grateful. Hashtag blessed, I guess, is as overused as that is.